Underhill. This is Underhill Creations and Casting Solutions. So today I'm going to talk to you about GluBoost. Anyone that knows me or have seen my videos or demonstrations, they know I'm a huge advocate of GluBoost fill and finish for my finishes. It's my go-to finish for all of my pens and a lot of my small turnings. So over the years I get a lot of people that ask me questions and make comments about it, and so I thought I'd take just a few minutes to address a lot of those. So the first thing is, people will comment about the price of GluBoost. GluBoost costs a little more than some of the competitors. And I'll be honest with you, after 20 years of using CA finishes, I can honestly say, yeah, GluBoost costs a little bit more than most of the other brands that I've used over the years, but there's more to it than just the price of the bottle. Right? In the other brands that I've used, and they weren't all bad, but I realized I was using more product. So I would add 10 to 15 layers of glue. Sometimes you'd get a crust on it when you'd put the accelerator. Other times you'd get a little bit of a fog or a haze. Sometimes it was just ripply when you were done. Then you'd have to go in and sand half of it off just to complete the finishing process. And it would take 30 minutes or more to put a CA finish on a pen. These other brands, they're not made to be a finish. They're made to be a CA. So over time, here's something that you may find. I've went over some of my pens I made years ago, and I started seeing all these micro cracks in the finish. And that's because it wasn't a finish CA. It was just a straight CA. And there's adhesive CAs, and then there's adhesive CAs with finishing qualities. And that's what you get with GluBoost. GluBoost Fill and Finish is made to be a finish. With some of the other brands I've noticed, I've had to apply 10 to 15 layers of glue, only to go on and sand at least half of them off just to get the glue to level out nice, maybe get rid of the white crust or some of the haze in the finish, and occasionally I'd have to sand it all off and start over again. So I was using 2 to 3 times more glue than applying what I do now for my GluBoost finish, which is 3 to 6 coats depending on the surface. So in essence, I'm saving money in the long run because I'm using less product and I'm applying a finish quicker. So let's talk about shelf life. That's a huge thing. I get a lot of people that ask me, well, how long will it last? Look at it this way. I've had several brands that didn't last as long as others. They'll harden in the bottle, dry up on you, or they'll gel up real thick before you get a chance to use it all. Now, I might have saved money buying those bottles at the time, but if I can't use it all, is it really money being saved? GluBoost is made from the finest materials, globally sourced and manufactured here in the United States, so it doesn't spend any time in a cargo ship coming overseas or sitting through customs. There's no additives to try to prolong its shelf life. I've never had to throw a bottle of GluBoost away because it's set up in the bottle. It's had the longest shelf life of any of the CAs I've ever used. So one of the other questions I get is, what's the proper way to apply it? I've seen people put it on with the lathe off. I've seen people put it on with the lathe on. What's the right way? And I'm here to tell you, the right way is the way that works for you. You don't have to do it one set way. So for me, I like to apply it with the lathe running. I turn the lathe to a slower speed and I work across the blank. And it doesn't matter if I go right to left or left to right. Sometimes I alternate that direction. But it allows me to apply just a couple drops of glue to the paper towel and wipe. Now, I also know people that apply it with the lathe stopped. It's the same results, only the difference is they're going to manually turn the lathe by hand as they apply their glue. I like to do it with the lathe running because I feel when I use the accelerator, I cover more area on the pen blank as it spins through the mist of accelerator instead of having to spray 2 or 3 times. So I often have people ask me, why do you put a GluBoost finish on your resin pens? And for me, it's very simple. Over the years, when I first started out, I didn't put a finish on my resin pens. If I'm using polyester resin, I won't, because polyester resin is a very hard resin once cured. But your urethanes and your epoxies, they're softer resins, and so they tend to dull with use a little quicker than polyester resin. So by applying a GluBoost finish, it gives me a harder surface and protects the resin itself. It encases it and protects it from any dents or dings, and it allows it to stay shinier longer. It's a more durable finish. One thing I've noticed though, over my years of doing this, especially on my clear casts, it really makes things clear. A simple step of applying the glue over the clear cast resin just gives it such a great transparency. It's like glass. And I've also noticed that over my color casts, it enhances the colors. It makes the colors more bold or more bright, as opposed to them kind of being faded out. All right, so let's talk about application. Now, I have a lot of people that ask me, what's the best way to apply this? Some people like to use white paper towels, some use blue, some use the craft foam or the little plastic baggies that our pen parts come in. So I will tell you this. In my experience, the best thing that I found to apply this glue is the blue shop towel. And you don't need a lot. This is a very small piece. As you can see, it's probably about 4 inches by maybe 1.5 inches. And I just fold it over and flatten it out. And this way I can work underneath the workpiece as it's turning. I'm going to tell you, in a pinch, if you've seen my other video, you know I use the white paper towel also. Now I will say, expect to get a lot of smoke from the paper towel, especially if you apply too much glue to it in the process. In the production of this stuff, not all brands are made the same, and some have more of a product that creates smoke when exposed to the GluBoost or any other CA, and it happens. So if you're going to use white, just be prepared for a little extra smoke. The blue works very well, as you see, and you don't need to apply a lot at one time. So I can't tell you exactly how many pens you'll get out of a bottle of glue, fill and finish, but what I can tell you is the glue dry itself, when used properly, you can get quite a few. I got 52 pens. These were single barrel Sierras, but I got 52 pens out of 1 can of glue dry. Remember, we're not spray painting it, just a light mist. Well, that wraps it up. I hope you enjoyed this short little video. For more information, be sure to check out my other videos on how I use GluBoost on my projects. And if you have any more questions, don't hesitate to reach out. Thanks for stopping by. I'm John, here at Underhill Creations and Casting Solutions.